Few now remember the evil that opposed them. Fewer still recall the dark sorceries cast to save them. And none could foretell that one humble father would stand between a vengeance from the past and the survival of the kingdom.
Welcome to GameSpot Live. I'm Greg Kasavin, here to talk about Dungeon Siege on behalf of Desslock, our Canadian contributor who couldn't be here today. Dungeon Siege is a 3D hack-and-slash action role-playing game from designer Chris Taylor at his new studio Gas Powered Games. Chris Taylor is best known for doing Total Annihilation, the 1997 real-time strategy game that combined a lot of really great interface features and a lot of depth and complexity into a really fantastic game, so people had very high expectations for Dungeon Siege as well. The good news is that Dungeon Siege indeed lives up to a lot of those high expectations. It's like Total Annihilation before it. It's a very polished, very well-designed game that's really easy to play and has a lot of great interface features and some really good artificial intelligence in it. But also like Total Annihilation, Dungeon Siege isn't particularly original. The story and setting aren't all that unique to the game, but it is one of the most polished games of its type. If you've played Diablo or Darkstone or Nox or any game like that, then you'll have a good sense of what Dungeon Siege is like. It's essentially a party-based hack-and-slash action RPG that almost entirely consists of battles with lots and lots of enemies. Instead of focusing on plot, you could tell that the designers really focused on just trying to make the game fast-paced and easy to play. One of the best things about Dungeon Siege is certainly the way it looks. It looks fabulous. It's got a fully 3D engine, and one of the coolest things about it is that the loading times throughout the game are entirely non-existent. You just see seamless transitions from one area to the next, and all the environments look really detailed, so the transitions end up being really impressive. You just feel like you're on an epic journey going through all these different types of locations. There's a great amount of variety to the different environments. You'll be maybe high up top on a mountain and then down in some dank dungeon or in swamps or in forests. And they all look great. There's lots of detail in the surroundings. There are also tons of different types of monsters, some of which are really big and really impressive to look at. Your different characters and the different spell effects and so forth also look great. Dungeon Siege also sounds excellent. All the monsters are perfectly scary as you'd expect them to be, and the game has an ambient musical score actually by Total Annihilation composer Jeremy Soule. As you travel through the game, you'll find that sometimes you could go off the beaten path and go into some smaller dungeons and so forth, but for the most part the game itself is entirely linear and monsters don't respawn, so while you can backtrack, there's really no reason to ever do so. You just want to keep pressing forward. You start out with just one character, but as you go along you get more in your party. They all introduce themselves when you first meet them, but they really don't have any dialogue or any real personality after that. And likewise, the game is just very thin in terms of its plot elements, so if you're looking for a big sweeping story-based RPG, this isn't the one for you. The game uses a really simple character development system that's really intuitive. Basically, whichever skill your characters are using, that's the skill they're going to improve in. For instance, if you fight with a sword, you'll get better with melee weapons. There are only 4 different types of skills. There's melee, ranged attack, and combat and nature magic. And since you could have a party of up to 8 characters, chances are you're going to have specialists in each of those skills. You'll probably find that your melee and ranged attack characters gain experience much more quickly than your magicians, which isn't really a problem in the single-player game, but in multiplayer that might discourage you from playing as one of the magic-using classes. That's because in multiplayer you can only play as a single character, which eliminates one of Dungeon Siege's most interesting features, the fact that throughout the single-player game you're controlling a lot of different characters at once. The multiplayer has some other issues. For instance, it suffers from some pretty bad lag even if you're on a fast connection, and otherwise there's no good way to split the loot you'll find, so you'll find yourselves all dashing for whatever items your enemies drop. So the best way to play Dungeon Siege is by yourself, where you'll find that it's really easy to control as many as 8 characters all by your lonesome. That's because the game lets you easily set a distinct behavior for any of your characters, which determines what sorts of actions they'll take, whether they'll run and attack enemies nearby or hold back and defend themselves. You hardly even need to control them sometimes. You can just sit back and watch, and they'll all do exactly what you want them to do. Then again, at any time, you can pause the game and take individual control and micromanage the situation as necessary, but you'll be impressed at how easily your characters do their jobs without your input. So Dungeon Siege isn't the most complicated game in the world, but it is really fun and easy to play and lets you see a lot of great stuff, including lots of different environments and lots of really big, mean monsters. If you like the sound of fighting through hundreds of monsters with just a small squad of different warriors and magic users, then it's certainly the game for you.